What it is, y'all. So, episode 7 dropped for us earlier, and I have been highly anticipating this episode. This is an episode I was very, very, very much looking forward to, and it did not disappoint. I'll just go ahead and jump into the ratings. Story-wise, I will say, all things considered, I was pretty critical of the previous episode, and this episode paid off epically. The animation quality in this episode, there was one teeny tiny little part that I was kind of a little iffy on, and sometimes I felt the animation could have been smoother. In fairness, that could be just me streaming it on a streaming service or whatever, but it wasn't perfect. But it was easily a solid 9, maybe even better. It was so good, and this was an action-packed episode. The action was on point. Another solid 9, maybe better. Story. They really set up what happens at the end of this episode. Now, I'm not going to spoil it right away. We'll get into spoilers here in a moment. So, I completely predicted what was going to happen. And I knew how things were going to progress. So, not just because I read the manga, but definitely it was just one of those situations where it's like, you could see what's happening, right? Like, it's the twist is kind of pretty obvious. So, great story, fantastic story, not altogether unpredictable. So, I'm going to give it 8.5. Because I feel like an 8 is a disservice. I feel like a 9 is too much. I'm going to say 8.5. The music, the score was immaculate. That's a solid 10, but that's always a solid 10. All in all, like, one of the best episodes we've had so far. Fantastic episode. Very much loved it. Now, I did recently pick up the manga, and I did read ahead, and I did have some spoilers for the episode, obviously. So I'm going to say the review of this episode is going to be just for the episode of the anime. Now, we will come back and we'll compare the manga to the anime. In fairness, though, there are not a lot of comparisons to make. The episode was pretty spot on. Like, it was not perfect, but it was right there. Like, the last episode, there were quite a few changes. But this episode, very few. Like, it was solid. You could almost, in fact, I did take the manga and the anime side by side because I wanted to do the comparison, and it was really good. So it's one of those situations where in the previous few episodes we've had like a lot of extra exposition and things that happened that didn't necessarily happen in the manga, and you can kind of tell where like Omori's notes or maybe even just, some extra writing or whatever. Not this episode. This episode takes over the course of manga chapter 9 and 10. Most of the time, these are one-chapter episodes. Not always, obviously, but we're on episode 7, and we're on chapter 10, so you can kind of see the addition there. But this is one of those situations where it was action-packed. It was phenomenal, and I absolutely love the way everything played out. So if you're looking for a big payoff episode, this is a big, big, big payoff episode. Now, we'll go ahead and get into the review/reaction portion of this. So if you guys haven't watched the episode, definitely do so. From this point going forward, if you haven't watched it, just about everything I say is going to be a massive spoiler. So pause, hit that like button, come back to us when you've watched the episode. That's your one warning. Let's jump in. Oh my God. So we knew that Will kind of had his grandiose entrance, which I'm going to cover the anime, not the manga. He had his big grandiose entrance, did the superhero landing, and we knew it was going to go down. And boy, did it go down. Julius held nothing back using that clone technique that we saw earlier in the episode. Now, what I love about this is when they drop something, they drop some knowledge on you, they're going to use that knowledge. He didn't just use the clones as a nuisance to distract everybody else from entering the arena. He used those clones and they were a massive part of this episode. In fact, he went out of his way to basically abuse this because he's like, essentially, this is one of those newer magics. They talk about how the Asti Venda, they're able to make new magic. And this is the one that that Elfie had actually made, who's, obviously Will's friend from way back in the day. You get more of that here in the episode as well. And this dude deliberately knows about their past. He's flaunting it. He is throwing it in his face, and he's like, look, this is how it's going to go down. I am not here to be a nice guy. I am here to show you what for. And boy, does he do it. Multiple occasions he traps him in ice. Multiple occasions he's just like throwing everything he has at him. But Will is such a badass. Rarely is he caught off guard. He is countering everything left, right. And remember, Will doesn't have magic. So he's just literally doing this with that gauntlet that he got a couple episodes back and the sword. So not even his magic deflecting sword, because he's got the one sword that basically antis magic power. No. This is just a regular ass sword that he is just wielding like it's, and it's it's like the size of Cloud's Buster sword. It is no joke. And he's wielding it like it's nothing. That sword has to weigh like 30 pounds. And he's just chucking it around with the greatest of ease, like a fencer. So, I mean, you see everything play out pretty much. And you get to the point at which they have the showdown and they talk about, okay, this is old girl's magic and this, that, and the other thing. And he knows. And at the beginning of the episode, you get this interaction between Elfie and kind of her carekeeper, where she's like, oh, here's this guy Julius. He's the blah, 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 blah. He could potentially be your replacement. And she's like, oh, okay. Sure. Like, she always seems pretty cool about stuff. Like, this is the first time we've kind of understood her as a character. Because prior to this, she just kind of seemed very unserious about the role, very annoyed by all the other people around her. This is the first episode where we really get more input. And we'll get to that here in a moment. However, Will starts talking about their past. And this is where you really find out more about the two of them. And he's like, we were orphans. We were like in this orphanage. And she was doing this magic at the age of 2. And old boy's just like, what? So what now? No. This is my powerful magic. And this is a big deal. And he's like, yeah, no, it's really not. She was doing this at 2. And then, of course, it pans back to Elfie in the tower, and she's like, yeah, I'm not ready for a suitor. A suitor. I'm not ready for a replacement. What I want is a sword. And I was like, there they go. The wand and the sword. I got it. Cool. So obviously she longs for him as well. So now we know the answer to that question. Does she even realize he's a thing? Oh, hell yeah. Oh, yeah. Now, is it anything romantic? They haven't really gone there yet. It so far just seems kind of like besties, essentially. So I wouldn't get too invested in the relationship side of this so far. I'm sure it's there. I'm sure they'll evolve to that. But at the same rate, I'm just going to say they're besties, and that be that. And, of course, Julius is like, don't underestimate me. I was only using 4 of them, and he had to use his cohorts there, his partners in crime, to help control him, because obviously, he's not perfected the magic, right? So, earlier in the episode, I kind of glossed over, but obviously Will knocked out those guys, and so he lost some semblance of control over the ice clones. And Will is like, he's getting attacked. He's getting, shot left, right, and center. He actually gets entombed in ice for the second time in the episode. And I know it's like an ice cage. It's not actually like ice, but same basic idea. And he's like, don't underestimate me. I control up to 6 of these. And he's like, bruh, she could do 10 at 2. I love it. He says she used to torment me with 10 of them, which I love comes full circle at the end of the episode. And she's just like, it wasn't torment. And I was like, this is great. Absolutely love it. I'm really loving Elfie now. Like I was just kind of lukewarm on her. Obviously, I want to know more about her motivations. But after this episode, full on, she's the best. I'm rooting for her, and I'm rooting for Will, 100%. It's a done deal. I'm sold. And so obviously Julius is just completely mind broken now. He's like, I'm on the level of a toddler. Literally calls her a toddler, and loses his mind. And Will, this is the best part. Will does what he always does. He comes in with a frickin' just right hook and knocks him into next. Well, I think he has. I think it's a left hook, but whatever, it doesn't matter. Knocks him into next Tuesday, and he is clean out. And the crowd goes silent because everyone's like, was that a thing? Did he just? Yeah. This shouldn't be happening. But then the crowd erupts because, and I love this because they set this up. If you guys haven't watched the episode, your last chance before you get the spoiler of spoilers. Will is right there next to the crown. All he has to do is grab it. And they even mentioned it twice in the beginning of this episode. They mentioned it just about every episode leading up to this, where they're like, all you have to do is pick up the crown. That's all you have to do. Julius didn't have to engage in this fight. All he had to do was grab the crown, and he was done. The fight was over, or the tournament was over with. That was it. All Will had to do was go grab the crown while Julius is mouthing off. And had neither one of them had this insane hubris, they could have just gone, doesn't matter, I win. Now, on Will's behalf, no one would have respected him. No one would have. It'd have been, oh, you cheated, all this, all that. So yeah, like, it's in his best interest to show the world, or the school, his microcosm, that he is not to be trifled with. And he did, like, 100%, like, knocked old boy out, like, wiped him completely out. And the best part about this is he turns around, and if you remember back to 2 episodes ago, when we first got the glimpse of all the Elven Corps, the 3 guys that were being trifled with Julius, and you first find out that Julius is using these ice clones, and they really set all this up. That dude literally is like, you guys are idiots, and he literally picks up the crown, puts it on his head. He's like, did you not listen to the rules? This is it. This is all you got to do. This is everything. Hello? So, Will did not win. Now, Will won, but he technically did not win the whole event. And here's the deal, guys. I love that. Now, I got basically halfway through the fight, and I was like, why does Will not walk over there and just grab it? But then I thought about it. I was like, no, he's got to fight him. He's got to actually beat him. He's got to win this. But he could grab the crown and then set it down and be like, but now I'm going to end you. And Will could have won that way, and everyone would have accepted it just the same. But it's the hubris. And they set this up for Julius from the very start. He's cocky. So it makes narratively, it makes an insane amount of sense. And this is where I'm going to get to the one problem I had with the story. And it's such a minor thing. But Will's got the hubris, or Julius has the hubris. Will has the naivete. And, it's that whole, you set something up. They set something up 3 episodes ago, and Amori's really good at paying all that stuff off. So we saw the elf dudes. They weren't just one-shot characters. And he even teased it with Leafy and Philvis. If you know anything about his prior works when it comes to DanMachi and all that stuff, you already know that he's going to pay that off. Those were all the hints as to what's going to happen. He hinted so hard at this twist. I barely find it feasible calling it a twist. Because even reading the manga, because I did read ahead, the whole time they're fighting, I'm like, why did they not just go over there? One of them? And when they show the ending, I was like, yeah, it's totally predictable. I mean, it's like I said, you get about halfway through the fight and you go, why are they not doing this the smart way? So while I appreciate the twist, and I do think it's good for Will as a character to have not won, it is also a trope. The main character, who is the underdog, never wins the first tournament. Goku didn't win the first Budokai. It was Jackie Chun. Name any mainline shonen type manga or anything like that out there, and it's the same. It is always some kind of easy victory. I say easy victory, but silly defeat, I guess I should say, because it's not always an easy victory. In fact, rarely is it. It's usually some silly caveat why the pro tag doesn't win the very first tournament right out of the gate. And I like that. But I want it to be more of a surprise, and I feel like they hinted a little bit too heavily on it, and I think it was a bit too obvious. But that said and done, they did everything right. It's all very by the book at this point, so I don't. That's why I can't complain. Like, I can give it a 9, maybe a 9.5, but I can't give it a 10 because everything was set up. There were no surprises, and they did hint a little too heavily as to what was going to happen. I think if the hinting was a little less heavy-handed, I would have appreciated it a little bit more, and it had been like, other mediums. Oh man, make it like Fight Club, where you got to go back and you really got to look at it and you go, oh, that's the kind of twist element I want. I want to have those moments. And I'm not mad we got what we got here. I love the episode. It was fantastic. It's my favorite episode of the series so far. I just don't think it's as someone who's supposed to be looking at this critically, I don't see a problem with wanting more. But that's my take. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments as always. And I'll be back with episode 8 coming up here real soon. We will also do an episode V manga deep dive on every episode from here going back real soon. I will try to bring those out in as fast an order as I can. But I can't promise it's going to be like one a day or anything like that. I will bring them out from time to time, so subscribe to stay up to date. And you seem to like the character episode too. We'll cover more characters, more stuff like that. If you have recommendations, that's what the comments are for. And we always have the Discord as well. See you guys on the next one.